here we go. Three radicals. You can only combine radicals that are the same, have the same radicand underneath here. So I do have 2 radical 45 plus radical 12, and then I need to simplify. So this is 4 and 3, 9 and 5, taking out perfect squares. So I have 2 radical 3 plus 2 times 3, 6 radical 5. Over here we have a rationalizing. We need to multiply by the conjugate, written as 1. Distribute 10 minus 5 radical 3. Down here I have 4 minus 3, and we picked the conjugate because it gets rid of the outside and inside terms. So 10 minus 5 radical 3. Cannot combine those any further. Do not try. Distribute property. Boom. 4 times radical 5 times radical 5 is 20. Plus 4 times 2 is 8. So 28. Working my way back across. 252 x to the third. So I need to write these as perfect squares. I know that 9 goes into 252 because 2 plus 5 plus 2 is 9. So even if you don't have your list, you can help yourself out. 9 is a perfect square. It goes in there 28 times. And I know I can break down 28 into 4 times 7. And then I write my x cubed as a perfect square times whatever is left over. You can do it differently if you want. That's nice and lined up. I can combine like terms, move out perfect squares, or combine terms under the radicand, move perfect squares out. 3 times 2 is 6. So the 7 stays under the radical, x comes out, and this x stays under the radical. 6x radical x, you can put absolute value. We don't worry about that too much. Okay, 4 radical 15 over 5 radical 12. Some of you want to look at this and multiply by radical 12 right away. Radical 12 over radical 12, which you can, but you always have to simplify later on. So why not use your properties of radicals first? This is 4 and 3 and 5 and 3, or just use your properties of algebra there, but the 3's cancel out. So I'm left with 4 radical 5 over 5 times 2, which is 10. So 2 radical 5 over 5. Go to number 6. Not like radicals. We'll see if some of them will be. 3 radical 4 radical 2 minus 3 radical 5 minus 2 radical 4 radical 5. Again, picking perfect squares. 6 radical 2 minus 3 radical 5 minus 4 radical 5 would be 6 radical 2 minus 7 radical 5. No like radicals, but I can break stuff down. 9 and 5, 9 and 2. So this is negative 9 radical 5 minus radical 5, negative 9 radical 2. So that's negative 10 radical 5 minus 9 radical 2. Do not combine any further. Radical 245. I'm looking for 2 radicals that go into 245. That one's a perfect square. I know A can't be written as a perfect square, but B to the 4th is a perfect square. So I got to see, can I break down 245? Well, it ends in a 5, so I know the even numbers are not going in there. So the only one you could try is 25. You know that doesn't go in there because it's not a multiple of money. So if you're not sure, you don't have your list, one thing you can do is do the factorization of it. So I know 5 goes in there. Say, well, I don't see a number that I think goes in. You say, I'm before I get stuck, I'm going to see how many times 5 goes in there. And you're like, oh, it goes 49. Let's do a little division. All right, there's my 2 factors. So I have radical 49, radical 5. Not as easy a one to see. 49 doesn't show up very much. So now I have all my factors. 7 b squared 5a. We're moving along. 3 plus 4 radical 5, 4 plus radical 2. This is so we have 2 binomials here, still multiplying by the conjugate of the denominator. So 12 minus 3 radical 2, I'm just distributing, plus 16 radical 5 minus 4 radical 10. None of these are like terms, which is beautiful. And then we have 16 minus 2, so this simplifies to 14. Do not cancel out anything unless you can take it out of everything. I could take a 2 out of this, not that one. Do not cancel under the radical sign. Radical 5 minus 1, don't forget this is 5 minus 1, 5 minus 1, don't forget your middle term. Square the first, square the last, multiply the 2 insides and double it if you want the shortcut. That's negative 1 radical 5, doubling would be negative 2 radical 5. So I have 6 minus 2 radical 5. I'm going to jump down right here. Use the same thing we did before on the front side. Or just reduce the fraction. But if you think about it this way, I think you're going to have to do that anyhow. So the 3's cancel out, left with 2/9, so that's radical 2 over 3. Don't need to multiply by the denominator. I'm skipping this, did one like that already, skipping this. Alright, I want to talk about this negative out front here. Just make sure you put the negative in the numerator, or the denominator, but not both. So I'm putting it in the numerator. And I'm multiplying by 5 plus radical 2 over 5 plus radical 2. So that's negative 10 minus 2 radical 2 all over 25 minus 2. So that is just 23. Multiply by radical 5 minus radical 2. So the denominator is nice, good, we want, it's 5 minus 2. Numerator, be careful, negative 1 radical 5 plus radical 2 minus radical 15 plus radical 6. None of these can be combined. This can change to a 3 and you're good. I'm going to skip this one, same kind of problem. Keep this video to the right length. 750 x to the 4th y to the 6th. I don't have my list with me right now. Somebody stole it. I got jumped and they stole my list. So I'm going to have to just rely on my calculator. So I'm going to factorize 750. Okay, I know that 125 or 750 is 75 and 10, so I know that. And 75 is 25 and 3, 10 is 5 and 2, and 5 and 5. So I can pretty quickly write at the factors 5, 5, 5, 2, and 3. I know I can write that as a perfect cube with some leftovers. And I know I can write that as a perfect cube. It already is. So every 3 factors come out front as a perfect cube. You know, oh yeah, 125 is a perfect cube. And I have an x and a y squared. And then inside I still have 6x. So if you don't have your list, remember where that comes from. Don't memorize the little tricks and not understand where things come from. That's all.